Hi, everybody, and welcome to our weekly Hpara webinar series. I'm excited to be able to sit down with one of my fellow Hpara employees that has been with Hpara far longer than I have. What is it, 6 years now, Peter? 7?
I think we've been across 6 years, yeah.
6 years, wow. So Peter Finlay, he's our lead support tech consultant. He is one of our engagement managers. As you can tell by the accent, he's from New Zealand and currently living in the UK. So Peter, thanks for jumping on with us.
No problem, happy to join.
Awesome. And thank you to the audience for jumping on with us. I know that you are all very busy with either back to school or the NBA playoffs right now. You know, so many different things are going on. And it's funny, basketball, because the last time I saw Peter in person, we were watching Golden State lose the one and only game at Oracle Arena during their record-setting year. So I think that we are fantastic luck, Peter, you and I together.
It's a great game, though. It really was. Really enjoyed watching the Celtics play.
Yeah, no, it was great. So today we're going to talk about how to set your school up for success with Hpara. And you know, we've got a number of people on the call that I can see that are new Hpara customers, and we've got a number of people on the call who are longtime Hpara customers. And so I think that it's fantastic because, you know, we get this opportunity at the start of every year to kind of refresh ourselves. I think that people go away for the summer, they don't touch anything for 3 months, and then everything kind of looks brand new again when they come in. So Peter's joining us, and Peter, I'm excited for you to walk through some of your tips and tricks after 6 years of really setting the team up for success.
Absolutely. Where should we start?
Awesome. Well, can you give us a crash course in what admins need to remember or learn, I guess in the case of some of our new customers, when it comes to setting up Hpara for the start of the school year?
Absolutely. So if you're joining Hpara for the first time, there's of course the initial setup, which will go through steps to granting access to your G Suite information. So there's certain technical pieces in the G Suite console. There's also a Hpara admin console set up for configuration. If you're setting up for the new school year, you've been with us before, we'll essentially set up courses and classes for the new year, roster any students in there, ensure that all your configuration's up to date, any new products or features are enabled, and make sure you're as good to go for the start of the year as possible.
Excellent. All right. So also just before I jump too much into, because I've got a few questions that I want to work with Peter on. So before I jump into that, just anyone who's watching this webinar, if you want to submit a question, you know, be it a more general question or even a technical question, we've got the expert here, so feel free to type it in the question box, and I'll make sure that we get to those. So Peter, it all starts, we'll assume for the most part that people have archived all of their classes from the previous year, especially for returning customers. What are the next steps as people jump into the new school year?
Absolutely. Well, that's a great place to start, is with the archiving, because you know, that's generally the first most important piece when it comes to finishing up for the school year. So before the Northern Hemisphere goes off to their summer break, we want to consider archiving all the data away from the previous year. And it's basically the same as back in the day when students would empty their desks, take home their books, so they're ready for that new year. We would generally send an email around about June to gather some preferences and determine whether your school, your district is running summer school classes, what your preferences are for when that, you know, the end date might be for the school year, perhaps when you're going to look at loading new data as well. You'd want to consider pausing any synchronization methods. So we do synchronize with Clever, with PowerSchool, ClassLink, OneRoster, so anything like that would need to be paused going into the summer break. And we appreciate there's a lot going on as well. So if you do forget about these things, because I understand there are a lot of, you know, technical apps in use these days, don't worry too much. Our support team will take care of things. So we have an automated process that does archive content away, even if our domains and districts forget. And most importantly, over that time is to enjoy your summer break. So don't worry about it too much. When you're coming back for the new school year, I imagine you've enjoyed a fantastic summer break, or in the recent situation, you've probably been in lockdown, rearranged the house. set up a work from home office. Now it's time to prep for the new school year. We would recommend checking that any links with Google Cloud Directory Sync are up to date. If you're using Google Cloud Directory Sync for your LDAP server, to update G Suite. Checking out any firewalls or web filters are updated with Hpara URLs. That just helps teachers and students access content a lot easier. We'd want to check into G Suite config. This is relevant for new customers setting up as well. If you haven't used Hpara before, we'd want to enable the API access. There's some OAuth settings in the background. I understand these are all technical terms, but they'd make a lot of sense once we get into the crux of it. There's the highlights extension for one of our products that would need to be pushed out to student organizational units. So if there's any new students, one of the most important things is ensuring they're in the right organizational units to begin with. There's the Hpara administration console configuration. We'd want to check out any new product features, enable any new functionality, and if there's any unsurety, just reach out to our support team. That's what we're there for. We recommend getting in sooner the better. This is definitely one of our busiest times of the year, and we'd be happy to meet for an administrator refresher and ensure that you're set up and good to go for the new year.
So Peter, for people like me who understood maybe like 30% of the words that you just used, I can like go on and book a time with you and you'll just walk it through and help me out?
Absolutely. We've got a great team that can set up a session. It can take anywhere from 5 minutes to 50 minutes. 5 minutes for an existing instance, and maybe 50 odd minutes to set up a new instance from scratch. So it doesn't take too long at all. Once we've got all the functionality in place for Hpara to communicate with G Suite, to communicate with your student data and your teacher data, we'd want to consider loading new classes for the school year. So we've archived all the old classes away. We want to load new ones for the new year. There are several methods that districts and schools commonly use. I'm a real big advocate for SIS sync. So that's direct synchronization with your student integration system. We integrate directly with Clever, which plays very nicely with a lot of SIS in the US. Also PowerSchool directly as well, ClassLink, OneRoster, part of ClassLink. And it's incredibly convenient. It's a great method to set up your district or school curriculum specified classes, and it saves teachers a lot of time for setting up their own courses. But on that topic as well, with teachers setting up their own courses, I'm also a really big advocate for Google Classroom Sync. That's a method where we can ingest data that from Google Classroom, and it empowers teachers to create and synchronize their own rosters. So it's great to use something like SIS Sync in hand with Google Classroom Sync. So you've got the benefits of curriculum created classes and also the teacher created courses as well. Once those courses are set up, we would check out the certain Google groups that grant different levels of access. So for example, if you have any administrators or principals in your schools that need to view all courses, we can have in certain Google groups to grant different levels of access. And from there, it's really just thinking about teacher refresher training, or sending out a welcome back letter to teachers just to say, hey, Hpara is still online. We've got some great self-paced training courses in our community, and also a Hpara Champions program, which I definitely recommend. It's a certification very similar to Google certification. It's great for teachers that really want to get the most out of Hpara, or for trainers or lead teachers that are helping out their peers as well.
Now, Peter, you've touched on a few amazing things, and we've got questions flooding in, so I'm going to interrupt you so I can ask a few of them. We must have one of our educators out there must be from New York, because they asked, what about RIC 1?
Yes, we do integrate with RIC 1. That is the one that I left off. I remember I mentioned ClassLink, and then I'd said OneRoster, which is the same thing basically. So RIC 1 is the last one that I left off. Sorry, we definitely integrate with RIC 1.
Okay, awesome. And so for New York and that sort of thing, no issues there. We also had another great question, which was, how do organizational units get from the SMS into Hpara? We are using Kamar.
Kmart?
K-A-M,
Yes,
Kmart.
Kmart is one of the widest used SAS systems in New Zealand. So go Kmart. They're very big in the high schools. So we don't synchronize directly with organizational units. There are some processes that can sync with organizational units, but as it stands with default functionality, we don't read from organizational units by default. When it comes to Kmart, there are integration options there. I've actually just opened a line of communication with their director, or they've opened a line of communication back with us again today to relook into those integration options. We previously did have a direct integration that worked really well. Unfortunately, that was deprecated. I think there was some product changes both on our side and on the Kmart side, and we lost that direct integration. But we're hoping moving forward we can reopen that up and get that back working again. Right now with Kmart specifically, the best method that I haven't mentioned yet might be something like FTP or curl sync. So that's the process of extracting data from the SIS, converting that to a CSV that's formatted in a certain way, and pushing that to Hpara via HTTP requests. It's a bit more of a technical setup, but it gives the school or the district full control of their data. They can compose the classes as they want. The naming conventions can be as custom as they need to be. It really is the most custom method to load the courses that they need. So right now, I would say curl sync would be the best method at this point in time.
Awesome. And if they have additional questions on that sort of thing, to the person that asked that question, feel free to shoot me a chat, and I can put you in contact with someone from our team that can walk you through the curl scripting process if that's something you want to do.
I should have mentioned, sorry, I'll just jump in quick, Rob. Just with Kmart, the last I remember looking at the interface, there was an option to export data to a CSV, which would download it in a certain Hpara format, which could then be manually loaded. So curl scripting, while it is more of a technical automated solution, it isn't the only option. So there are options available. So definitely reach out to Robert, and he can put you in touch with myself or the support team, and would be happy to talk you through setting that up.
Awesome. Now, right before I jumped in and started asking you questions, you were talking about the Champions program, which if people don't know about it or haven't registered yet, hapara.com/get-certified is the link for that. And it's a phenomenal program that at least a couple of teachers within every school should be doing, because it really sets them up as champions within that school. Peter, how often do those courses run? Do you know? What can you tell us a little bit about that?
Put me on the spot with that one. In terms of the frequency of the courses, I'm not 100% familiar with how frequently we do run those. I do know that there was a cohort that began, I think, around the beginning of August, but I'm not certain 100% how often we run those. It may be quarterly, it may be more often. I'm sorry, I don't have the answer to that.
Not to worry. I'm gonna say it's monthly. I think there's another one coming up soon. And that's the fun thing about these webinars, Peter, is that we get to say what it is, and then suddenly that is what it is all of a sudden. So
I'm learning.
Yeah. So no, it's a great tool, and for all of the district admins watching, it's something that I would highly encourage pushing out to your teachers as they look at their PD options in the coming new year.
Absolutely. One of the great things about those Hpara Champion courses as well is you get to meet up with a variety of educators from around the world. And everyone does things a bit differently. And as I've just learned something new right now from my colleague, you can learn things from teachers all around the world. So it's a great community to become a part of. Awesome.
All right. So now, not to put you on the spot again, but we've got, COVID right now has changed the world. There's some countries like New Zealand are doing a much better job of managing it than I'm based out of Chicago right now than places like here. But I mean, the only certainty right now is complete uncertainty about how school's going to run in the new year. I know some are going back face-to-face full term, some are doing total distance learning, some are doing a hybrid. So for the admins out there watching this right now, what do they need to be aware of What might they do differently at the start of this year that they may not have done at the start of last year?
It's a really great question, and there are so many different answers. It's one of my favorite questions to ask when I'm catching up with administrators at the moment is, if you were forced to revert to distance learning tomorrow, how ready do you feel like your district or your school is? And the answers vary quite greatly. One of the best ways to look at this is just to review the previous forced lockdown that we were thrown into. How did that initial lockdown go for you? How was distance learning? What went well? What could have gone better? Have the issues that were in place during that forced school closure been addressed? That's a really good place to start. And you want to be considering things like student devices, Chromebooks, whether you have bring your own devices available, or if it's a one-to-one situation, whether students have the option to utilize devices at home. Essentially making sure they're set up with all the tools to learn from home to begin with. Then you want to consider your Chromebook policies. So these are like configuration for those Chromebooks, whether that's set at the device level, the user level, any network changes that may be necessary, firewalls, web filters, VPNs, proxy servers, that sort of thing. That's probably stuff all your tech team would be taking care of. And a really great one to keep in mind as well is the remote support for both teachers and students. So ensuring that not only are they set up to be successful from home, but that there are support systems in place to keep them motivated, keep them engaged, keep checking in, that sort of thing. And also the parents. I should have mentioned the parents too, because we saw parents essentially became teachers during that lockdown period. While they were, stuck from home with their kids and their students, also they were essentially helping out day to day with their schoolwork. What support? Just ask the question: what support is in place for the parents too? Because come tomorrow, if we were thrown into that situation again, parents may be from home to help out, continue helping out. I'm sure they'd appreciate that support, or they may be back at work. So what support systems can we put in place to ensure that the kids are best set up to continue learning from home? And yeah, another big one I did mention before was engagement. So engaging with your students, communication, motivation, ensuring happiness and healthiness, that sort of thing. Providing as close as you possibly can a classroom environment from home. I think that was definitely one of the biggest struggles that I've heard a lot from teachers and administrators that I've caught up with, is trying to recreate that classroom environment and camaraderie and that sort of thing.
So Peter, you touched briefly on IP restrictions. Now we've been getting this question a lot here recently because, as for as many of the people know on the call, in Hpara you've got two choices when it comes to highlights, which is the monitoring aspect, right? You can restrict access based on IP, so you can only monitor within a school district's IP domain if they want, and you can also restrict based on hours, correct?
That is correct, yes. So that's one of the things to consider as well is, do you want to be granting visibility to the student browsers while they are from home? And if the answer is yes, then you may want to look into opening up those IP restrictions, perhaps removing them completely, or specifying maybe a VPN range if you have that functionality. VPN means that students can connect to a school network before connecting to the internet. And if that's an option, then you can specify that range for the VPN. With time restrictions, you may want to look at things like, self-paced learning may be in place. So students may not necessarily be online between the hours of 8 a.m. to 3 p.m. They may be learning maybe around 5 p.m. once mum or dad comes home from work. So you may want to have some options to open that up with time restrictions. There is some great functionality with highlights while students are from home, specifically guided browsing. That is a feature that allows teachers to essentially specify certain websites that students can access during certain time periods, or do the opposite. They can also filter websites during certain time periods. So, for example, if there's an assessment that needs to be done say tomorrow, as a teacher, I could go in and set up a 3-hour session or a 2-hour session, however long it needs to be, for some specific websites for that assessment, and students would be locked into those websites across that time period. Now, of course, that doesn't stop the student from utilizing their phone device or another device to search for answers and that sort of thing. But I've seen a lot of use of things like Zoom or GoToMeeting to observe the student while they're completing their assessment. I think it's something commonly used. I believe that was how I completed my Google certification, was with similar methods. They had sort of the test online, and then the video was on me at all times, just to make sure no one's sort of popping over the shoulder and helping out. So that can help out too.
Those are all great suggestions, and we were working with a school district here recently, and they lifted all of their restrictions. And if there was a lot of debate. Do we lift the restrictions? Do we not lift the restrictions? And I think that one of the keys for admins to know, as we probably have a number on this call who aren't necessarily in the classroom, is that highlights, while it does give teachers visibility into what students are doing, is not just meant to be like a punitive monitoring tool. Especially for teachers who are running synchronous classes, with some within the class and some within home, it allows them to be able to open tabs up on their students' computers and to send out different websites that they want the students on. And so it really becomes more of an orchestration of learning. And I think that we're going to have a webinar on it coming up, and if not, we will now, on how you use highlights, to orchestrate learning from a distance as well, because there's a ton of value in that. And so I would encourage admins, as they're having those internal debates about what to do, to make sure that they loop the teachers in to find out about their practice of how they're using the tool and what their intentions are, with students in and out of the classroom.
Absolutely, completely agree. One of the questions that was raised quite a bit also during the lockdown period, when students were forced from home, is the question around student privacy, data privacy, all that sort of thing. Hpara has a very, very good privacy policy. We are part of the Student Privacy Pledge since its conception. We comply with US federal COPPA, FERPA, the European GDPR, EU, US, I think Swiss, US Privacy Shield as well. So all of those good bits and pieces are in place. But I mean, of course, it's still a very difficult field to navigate, especially when the conversation comes up with parents. So if it does help out, we do have a parent letter that we have typed up around our privacy policy and everything, just to help out with some assurance that something like highlights is being used for the right purposes. And if anybody would like to, if any of our existing customers would like to share anything like that with their parents, just reach out to Robert or myself, and we'd be happy to share any content with you to help those conversations.
And I think, Peter, you're absolutely, communication at the end of the day is key. And the only districts that I know have run into issue or had concerns have been the ones who didn't communicate out exactly what was available to them on student devices, and talk about how it's only when a student's logged into their profile that certain tools can be accessed and used. And I mean, I don't think the schools wanted the parents using the computers anyways, but that's an entirely different subject.
It happens. And to be fair, it does raise a great conversation with students as well around digital citizenship and that online security. It's sort of a general safety thing to log out of your device when it's not in use, or set a screensaver, set a password, all those good little things. It's a great opening conversation for students as well.
Awesome. Now, one of the things that we've been working on better part of the last year that finally went from beta to testing to, we had a bunch of different schools working on it kind of in the spring, is student dashboard or classroom dashboard, depending on what you want to call it. And that launched live to everybody over the summer. And so every school has it that has Hapara now. And so what do the admins need to know in terms of setup for classroom? Are there resources that they can send out? Because this one's entirely student-based, right?
Yes, yes, I'm glad you brought Student Dashboard up. I'm really, really, it's probably one of my favorite releases from Hpara in my duration that I've been with the company. So essentially, Student Dashboard is a one-stop shop to access for students specifically to access digital learning from Hpara Workspace, Google Classroom, their Gmail, emails, Drive, notifications. It's fantastic, and it's proven so valuable with the recent lockdown. And little plug here. We did win a couple of awards, enterprise category and enterprise solution category with the Tech and Learning Awards recently, and also an EdTech Breakthrough winner for Enhanced Curriculum Solution of the Year. So we're very proud of Student Dashboard. As Robert said, it is available to all districts, and it works hand in hand with our workspace piece, which is also proven very valuable from home. That's a tool that allows teachers to deliver online differentiated learning. It's often been described as Google Classroom on steroids. Similar functionality, but each product does have their pros and cons, and they do work very well together as well. The Student Dashboard is great for students to essentially help out with organization. They can log into their web browser each day. They have just one page to view all of their coursework. They can keep in touch with their teachers there, view any emails that have come through, any Google Classroom notifications, updates, that sort of thing. And it just really helps them keep on top of their schoolwork, both on campus and offsite as well. It's also mobile friendly, which is a very big thing. As we all know, I think we all know, students are very well attached to technology, especially mobile phones, so they can keep in touch with their work even on the go.
Awesome. I'm excited to hear what people think about it. And all the students have to do is go to mystudentdashboard.com, right, and log in.
That's it. That's it.
That one's easy. You can tell the support was involved in the process of that one because the setup of it's so easy. So
we try to keep it as simple as possible. Yes, absolutely. I think the best thing about Student Dashboard is it doesn't require any of the setup that the other Hpara suite pieces do. So for example, teachers don't need to necessarily set up any classes, or administrators don't even need to go ahead and set up courses for students to view their work, because all of that information already exists. It's there in G Suite, it's there in Google Classroom, and all Hpara does is we ingest that and provide it in an easy to read format for students. So it's a great product.
That's awesome. Now, I think that at the start of the school year, as you indicated, it's busy time for you guys, and I know that you're doing six setup calls a day, and there's thousands of tickets coming through. So to cut some of those tickets off at the start, what are some of the biggest kind of FAQs that we get through from admins that might help some of the people that are watching?
For sure. It's a really busy time for, I think, everybody in the education industry around this time of the year. I think the number one, or yeah, let's throw out the top three there. So I think the top three queries that support and our implementation teams often see is new administrators coming in, or a handover, or perhaps even an administrator hasn't used Hpara specifically because they're not a teacher, so they've set it up. It's been working so well they haven't had to troubleshoot anything for the last 12 months, and they completely just don't remember simply how to load classes, and that's absolutely okay. Our team is here to help out with that, so we can set up an administrator refresher session, help out with any queries, questions. We've got some great content to answer any queries with our FAQs, and I would suggest, if you're uncertain at the beginning of the year of what to do, reach out. Communication is key. Let us know. The sooner we know, the sooner we can help you out, and reach out as soon as possible, because our support call queues and our calendars will book out quite quickly. I think we are doing very well this year with the volume of districts that have moved towards SIS Sync and Google Classroom Sync. They're very non-touch solutions in the sense that once you set these methods of loading information to Hpara up, it's almost like a set it and forget it solution. So administrators can afford to forget things at the beginning of the year, and that's okay because it's already set up. It was set up a year ago and it's still working just fine. Another really
But
common question.
oh, sorry, Peter. I was just going to jump in really quickly, especially for some of our legacy customers who've been with us for a long time. If they're using curl scripting, I think that everybody at Hpara would encourage them to reach out and just check in to see if there is an easier way for them to do their loads, because there likely has been in the last few years since they started using the tool. Isn't that correct?
Absolutely, yes. If you're still using a manual spreadsheet or CSV method, then by all means reach out to our support team and query what options there are available now. I do remember when I started with the business, there was no Google Classroom Sync. I think Clever Sync, or no, it was maybe PowerSchool Sync at the time was the only SIS method that was available. So there have been a lot of improvements and functionality changes, and there are always improvements being made. So, for example, I think we heard the question earlier about the New York, was it Rick One? Yes, Rick One?
Rick
Yes.
one. Yeah.
Rick One. So that came about, I think, in the last maybe 24 months. So that's quite a new integration for us, but it works fantastically. Once it's set up, it's just amazing. So definitely reach out. That is actually probably one of the, I'd say one of the top 3 questions asked as well is how do I load new classes and rosters? How do I give teachers and students access to the right parts of Hpara? And if you're using something like SIS Sync, curl scripting, Google Classroom Sync, then those are the closest you have to a set it and forget it solution. You know, you just set it up and it just works. It's really good.
And one of the things with Hpara, now correct me if I'm wrong, Peter, but I think that at the admin level, they can allow syncing of classes, but then teachers can also create classes if they want to allow that, correct?
Yes, absolutely. So Google Classroom Sync allows teachers to create their own Google Classrooms first off, and then sync those rosters into Hpara. Now, if you're not using Google Classroom or don't want to enable Google Classroom Sync, that's absolutely fine. We do have functionality that enables teachers to create their own courses from scratch. So from the teacherdashboard.com page, they can just click a couple of buttons, type a class name, add student email addresses, and it's done. Very simple.
I've worked with a couple of districts in the last year, you know, obviously a little different with COVID, but that use the Create class for lunchroom monitoring, libraries, situations where they may not have SIS, you know, designated classes where they're able to put students in and out really quickly and still be able to orchestrate learning.
Absolutely. There are some, you know, some unique situations where I've seen those methods utilized as well. So for example, we have some sort of like juvenile schools on board where their rosters may change on a daily basis, and so they want to be able to update those as quick as possible. And that manual create class method is really the quickest way to enable and empower teachers to manage those rosters in real time. You can add and remove students on the go as needed. Super handy as well if you've got paras coming in or substitute teachers for the day, and they may not necessarily have the right access to the classes that they need. If you set them up with access to Hpara and that manual create class method is available, they can, within a couple of minutes, just click some buttons, type a class name, and they have visibility of everything they need.
Awesome. So Peter, in addition to being our support genius in many ways, our tier 1 guy, you handle the northeast and southeast for our engagement. We've got 3 engagement managers. Specifically within North America, we've got 3 engagement managers who will work with districts. So talk to me a little bit about that, because it's new at Hpara.
Yes. So we've introduced a part of our onboarding process when the district or the school is setting up for the first time. We recognized that there was a need to assess student and teacher needs, set goals, and make sure that we're achieving those goals down the track as well. So, you know, it just keeps everyone happy at the end of the day and make sure that students and teachers are getting the most value out of Hpara as they possibly can. Part of that is a document we've created, which is a plan for success document. If I could share my screen, I'll share that and talk about that for a wee bit.
This is the fun part where there you go. That was fast, Peter. Good.
What are we seeing?
We are seeing your screen, plan for success.
Excellent. Just Plan for Success?
Yeah, and then your other tabs, but we can't see those.
That's fine. Yeah, no, that's all right. Okay, so this is the Plan for Success doc that we've created recently, and we generally send this out to anyone that's onboarding for the first time, or any accounts that are renewing for the new school year. But it's open for anybody to assess and fill out. And we just ask some key questions in here to really get down to the crux of what's most important, not only to students, teachers, but also to the district as well. And that's we start off just with the great question I love. How does your school district define success? Super open question, can be answered in any way possible. I've put together just an example here, which is less from a district perspective, because I am not a district coordinator, but it's probably more from a Hpara perspective. So I've just got some answers in here to help out with that. In terms of measuring Hpara success, I think one of the best ways is to measure that is with the general student and teacher engagement. So how engaged are they with the tools? How often are they using these tools? How are they using the tools? When are they using the tools? Where are they using the tools? Learning that is active, differentiated, and collaborative. I think that's very important, especially with G Suite. There are a lot of differentiation options within our workspace tool, within Google Classroom, and a lot of collaboration options for group work and collaboration. Hpara Analytics. I couldn't think of a synonym for collaboration, but I went with it. Hpara Analytics, that is a fantastic piece which grants visibility into G Suite, how it's being used. It gives a deeper understanding of how students and teachers are interacting with G Suite, and it's a very high level view as well. So we can blow that out year by year, and you can really see how much impact not only Hpara is having within your school or district, but how G Suite is having an impact. And G Suite might have been in place 3 or 4 years before you've even considered taking Hpara on board. So it's really interesting to take a look at how valuable G Suite was pre-Hpara, and then just look at those stats and numbers and metrics and just notice the difference for when Hpara was introduced. And I guarantee you're going to see improvements. It's really great. We ask,
something to note too, Peter, is that for the people watching this right now, is that they get analytics, and I think that a lot of schools either didn't know or forgot, or I often describe Hpara like Excel. On a weekly basis, I figure out something, and it's like, oh, I didn't know that it could do that. And so, a refresher is that for those people that maybe have forgotten, analytics.hpara.com, your school's in there, and if it's not, then reach out to us and we'll make sure that we get it set up.
Absolutely, it's Excel's a great example. It's like you've been using a VLOOKUP your whole life, and then you learn how to index, and you can reverse VLOOKUP. It's awesome.
Okay, I don't know what that is, and I'll figure it out after the call because that sounds better. I just learned VLOOKUP. So.
Excellent. So we asked, why did you choose Hpara? The answers that I've collaborated here are answers that I've seen given to us from some of my recent customers coming on board. Often it's to aid blended learning and distance learning scenarios. Specifically, with this COVID situation going on, Hpara really helps out so greatly with that. It can increase teacher efficiency in the digital classroom, organization to G Suite. We do have quite a strong commitment. I think we mentioned this earlier with highlights. Quite a strong commitment to ethical interaction with student Chrome browsers by highlights. So not just monitoring, policing, but we encourage, our tools and our products do encourage providing formative feedback with that interaction and ensuring that students are adopting good digital policies and digital citizenship and all that good stuff. There are some great personalization differentiation options with Workspace. Student Dashboard, as we touched on earlier, provides a central tool for students, which is, I can't keep saying how fantastic Student Dashboard is. I think if I had something like this when I was in school, I probably would have been a lot more organized, I'll tell you that much. And then integration with Google Classroom. So it works really well with many LMSs and SISs, integrates really well. We ask about sort of some of the known concerns or barriers that can slow down and prevent teachers from utilizing Hpara. And that gives us some insight into not only the needs, but it gathers input and helps set goals for how we can navigate that digital environment, because I think digital fluency is what I've put in there first, and that often can be the biggest struggle, not only with adopting new education tools, but adopting digital technology in general. Just general digital fluency is quite a big one, and we try to keep our product as user-friendly as possible, and we encourage as much feedback as you can give, because the more feedback we receive, the more improvements we can make off the back of that. There is a general hesitance as well that that comes in terms of adopting change or new technology. Ease of use, user friendliness, time management. We appreciate it's an incredibly busy time of the year right now, and especially with COVID, and generally speaking, faculty are just always busy planning curriculum, so that can also often be a barrier to adopting a new technology product. And then there are unknown or external factors. You can't really plan for something like COVID-19, for example. I don't think anybody knew that was coming, and it just sort of plunged us into an unknown. But I think we've adapted very well, not just Hpara specifically, but I think globally the education industry has adapted incredibly well in hindsight. And I've got a lot of confidence moving forward that we'll continue to just keep smashing that out of the park.
That's great.
We asked about, sorry, go ahead.
Oh no, I was just going to say it's a fantastic resource that I think would be useful, not just for the new people, but also for longtime customers, maybe as they reevaluate their practices.
Yeah, totally. I think one of the greatest things about the doc that we've created is it encourages school and district leaders to get into a room together and have these conversations, and sharing that with our team just ensures that we're all on the same page. I mean, we want your school and your district to be successful. If you're successful, thanks to us, then we're also successful. It's a win-win situation. So if we can help each other out, that's all this doc is really looking to do. We ask about how Hpara fits into the plans for the school year, whether teachers are ready to use a tool like Hpara to teach in a blended learning environment. We appreciate we appreciate how Hpara can be used, and often it can be difficult to translate the value of this immediately to teachers, because it's something new. There's often that sort of stigma around new tools or new applications when they come on board, like, oh, it's just the next thing that the school or the district has picked up. But we want to show you that Hpara is definitely not just the next thing. It's something that is here to stay, and we have all the analytics and usage reports and metrics in place that can help cast light into that as well. So there are a lot of innovative ways that teachers can engage with students, and we have a great support team and a fantastic professional learning team as well. So we're confident that we can help build confidence in using Hpara with a bit of training and support there as well.
Awesome. The only other thing, Peter, and again, I didn't talk to you about this one ahead of time, but something that I know is new this year that maybe people wouldn't know about, but that the admins in this call have access to, is that I know that, and it's standard for new customers, but old customers have to enable it for the time being. I think at some point it'll probably be pushed out to everybody, but you can now enable so that it makes the teacher give a reason for why a student's tab was closed, correct? Within the back of the system? Okay.
Yes, so instead of just sort of willy-nilly closing tabs left, right, and center, we have implemented an optional piece of functionality. So it's not mandatory for districts or schools to implement this, but we definitely recommend it, which allows the teacher to give the student a reason for why they have closed a tab down, and that is super handy for when students are also from home. So it's not, to be honest, I don't think we saw highlights used in the remote learning situation as frequently as when students were on campus, for a number of reasons, largely I think because schools, districts, students, teachers were sort of just scrambling for a sense of normality across that time. I think a lot of the tools and usage and regular classroom use went out the window in that initial period, but it did give teachers the option to to let students know why they were closing a tab down. Provide that formative feedback. You know, let the student know whether it was because they were off task or if it was an inappropriate website or for whatever reason it was.
Yeah, and I think it's a really important functionality. And I know our lead educator, Lemva's on watching this webinar right now, and it's something that she strongly believes in, which is that, you know, we need to tell students, you know, if they're off task and why. And in a lot of cases, in doing some of the research that we did, you talk to a student, a tab suddenly disappears. Well, they think that they closed it accidentally, so they reopen it, you know, and they don't know that it got closed out on them. So it's functionality that that if you haven't been in the admin console recently, highly encourage people to go in and activate for the upcoming school year.
Absolutely, yes. No, that is a good point. We don't enable it by default. So that is definitely something. If you are an existing customer for Hpara, please reach out to our team and query any of the new products or features we have. Jump on our Hpara blog, read up on the news. I think I have it here. Yeah, the link is hpara.com/blog/news, and we have a lot of updates in here, especially around, you know, the remote learning situations we'll be thrown into, as well as some of the new products and functionalities that we offer leading into the new Northern Hemisphere school year. I won't go through each of these questions individually because there are quite a few, to be honest, but I'll briefly touch on a few more. So yeah, we do touch on the teachers seeing applications as just one more thing. I briefly mentioned that earlier. We do ask what went well during the COVID situation while learning from home. And this was an interesting one, actually. This was feedback by Beth Still, one of our fantastic professional learning coordinators and a colleague of mine and another engagement manager. She mentioned that teachers reported that some students who were typically more quiet in class were more engaged and willing to participate while learning from home. So that I thought that was a little bit of a positive thrown in there. It wasn't all bad. Some people, I think, thrived in the sort of more introverted scenario of working from home. And then we have just a piece on hardware and software usage, just so we have an understanding about the technology that's in use in the district. We want to ensure that Hpara plays nicely with all of these pieces, which it does. And we ask about, you know, what you're interested in using, the full suite, whether it's something more specific, and just some information around district learning drivers. I didn't populate any of those because we're not a school district. I don't have any drivers in particular, but yeah, we ask about the objectives of Google adoption, which we can report on in things like analytics or Hpara usage reports, core values that drive learning, the rollout process, which we will help out with as much as we possibly can, and whether there are any planned major curriculum or tech changes in the next 18 months. You would be surprised at the number of schools that I have gone ahead, set up, and 6 months down the track, they're actually changing out their entire domain to something new, which it can be a little bit of a sticky change, but if we have some heads up about it or some knowledge about that, then we can help plan that change and ensure that there is minimal downtime as possible, perhaps across a weekend or a school break period, where we can make the changeover.
And I think that that's a great point, Peter, too, which is that you know, Hapara is, I think 50% of the staff are former educators. There's, you know, there are people who've been in similar roles and situations as the people that are watching this webinar right now. So if you've got a problem, be it with Hapara or something that maybe you don't think is a Hapara question, but maybe it is, I'd encourage you to reach out to the engagement team, because, you know, it's people that solve these problems on a daily basis or that have solved them in the past that likely have an answer for you, and we're more than happy to help.
Absolutely. I don't know how many combined years of teacher knowledge we have in our team, but it is a lot. I think I was just trying to think of who the longest standing educator was in the business now. I think it would still be Lemva. Would that be right?
Yeah. Yeah, Lemva, our CEO, was an educator for over 20 years. We've got a lot of them. So
yeah.
Quick question that came in from the crowd here, Peter, as well. Can Hpara configuration / installation be managed using Microsoft iTunes?
That is a very good question. Not Hpara configuration specifically. but it may be possible to manage G Suite config. If that can hook into the necessary APIs, then theoretically it should be possible. But in terms of Hpara config specifically, no, that is managed directly within Hpara.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Peter. For those people who don't know, it's late there in the United Kingdom. So thank you, Peter, for staying up with us and answering all of the different admin questions that we've had and giving kind of people a refresher as we go into the new school year. It was incredibly insightful, and I know based on the feedback that I'm getting, people are really appreciative of you walking us through those different pieces.
No problem. Happy to help.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Peter. And if you've got any questions or anything, I would encourage you to reach out to any of the Hpara team. You can reach out to me. You can reach out to Peter. Support-related questions, best to go straight through the support queue, and we'll get to you absolutely as quickly as we can. I think that we have support covering 18 hours or something across the globe right now, so it's we're here and ready and eager to help you guys as you enter the new school year. So thank you on behalf of everybody. Peter, again, my appreciation. Hope that you have a great evening, and to those people watching, morning, afternoon, evening, have a wonderful day and stay safe. Thank you very much.
Bye-bye.